once we get that right, which is for me the most important thing, that they have, first of all, respect. The second one is commitment. The third one, passion. Those three ingredients are non-negotiable.
Hello and welcome into the Non-Negotiable podcast. I'm Gavin and I'm here tonight with Pascal. How you doing, Paz?
What's up, Gav?
And from a strange remote location, here with Justin. How you doing, Jazz?
Hey, Gav. I apologize for the amount of 10-year-olds that are playing Minecraft right near me. But yes, let's try to do the best we can on this podcast, right?
Yeah, I mean, you know, if you're opening up a daycare, that's all about you. So we'll move on. So let's start. We've got Palace tomorrow. So let's start with bringing back the old favourite, Who Am I game. So are you ready, guys?
Let's go.
All right. So I started my career with Bordeaux. I moved to Arsenal where I played 40 league games. I went on loan to West Ham, played 3 times. I then moved to Crystal Palace, for whom I appeared 60 times. I finished my career with Cardiff City, appearing twice. Who am I? So I'll let you guys stew on that, and we'll come back at the end.
Can you just repeat one more time? Because I don't have anything written to refer to. So I just want to.
Bordeaux.
Yeah.
Arsenal. West Ham on loan. Crystal Palace. Cardiff.
Okay.
So we'll come back to that. We'll come back to that at the end.
All right.
Palace on Monday night. I think this is a fun one for a few reasons. Palace is always a tricky place to go. Roy Hodgson's back there now. He's had a good record against us recently. They're obviously a pretty big side, Palace. With that in mind, Juz, how do you see us starting this game from a starting lineup perspective? Me and Paz were saying it's kind of difficult to call the starting lineup this season because we've got a lot of variations that we can use. And I think Jesus being out actually makes it harder to call and not easier. So what do you think?
I think Zinchenko starts this one. I do. I think we'll see a familiar back four, the back four we saw most of last night. Most of last season. Everything else, I would expect Partey and Rice in midfield together with Odegaard, and then maybe, the forward is still a question. I bet he starts Nketiah again. I do. I think he does. So it'll be Saka, Nketiah, and Martinelli.
Paz?
Zinchenko, I think, for sure starts for me. I think with the Timber injury, he's now. I know he's not had a full preseason of or any preseason of fitness, but I think he would be good enough for him to start. I think along the same lines of what Justin's saying. Actually, it sounds. Sorry, I didn't get the midfield part. Just who did you say midfield?
Midfield, I said Partey, Rice, Zinchenko. Partey, Rice, Odegaard.
So you're saying Havertz out?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, that's a good one. I feel Nketiah gets slinged in favour of Havertz. As much as I do agree with Justin, though, because Nketiah is, obviously he likes him. But I think being away, maybe they want a bit more hold-up play, a little bit more possession. So I have a feeling that he puts Havertz in the Nketiah role. And like Justin's saying, Partey, Rice, Odegaard, and the rest all the same except for Timber, obviously, being Zinchenko.
I'm with you, Paz. I think Havertz starts up front. I had a theory towards the start of the week before this game with Luton behind closed doors where Zinchenko basically made his comeback. And I think that game, it wouldn't surprise me if the main reason behind us playing that game was to get Zinchenko an hour before Monday. So now I think he'll come in. But I was wondering if what we would do was actually slide Gabriel in at left back, which would allow him to keep Partey at right back to allow Havertz in midfield. But I think I think it's pretty nailed on now that Zinchenko's going to start and that back line will be back to normal. And it makes sense, right, Juz, because they're a big side for a start. Eze is obviously their danger man. So I think having Partey and Rice in the side, particularly Partey as that screen, I think it makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, definitely it makes sense. I think we're gonna go for size reduction. Is that the right word? I don't know. Maybe size protection a lot. But I could definitely see Partey starting. Yeah, no doubt about it.
Paz, you worried about anyone else from Palace other than Eze? I mean, I know Edouard had quite a few shots on opening day. I think that's, I'm not reading too much into that first game for them. They could have been 3 down in the first half an hour, although it ended up looking like a comfortable win for them. But I'm not. I don't know. I find it difficult to be scared of Crystal Palace.
I would have been more scared of them last season than this. I think Elise I think he's injured, so I don't think we have anything to fear on that because he can obviously be a threat. I agree with you. I think we got to go into that game with 3 points in the mind completely. Eze is the only one that can pose a threat. He's the only one that can unlock a pass. He's tricky on the ball. He's become better and better season gone on, but we should be able to contain that with our midfield, especially if Partey and Rice are there, and of course Zinchenko as well. So I can't look at that game and be fearful because it just looks like when you look at the two teams, I think Palace are they haven't really invested much in the summer. There's not really any big signings. Selhurst is a difficult place, but I think we showed last season that we can pull it off.
Yes, this is a case of our normal away day stuff, right? We need to strangle that midfield early, and the goal threat obviously is coming from Martinelli and Saka again.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, that is going to be the key, is strangling that midfield. I think with the loss of Zaha, they're going to be going through Eze as much as they can. But
that should play into our hands, right? Because that means they're gonna be coming through the center. Because Eze plays obviously like a 10 role, so that's going to play into our hands, I think, because that's going to be playing into an area where you're going to find Partey and Rice, and then behind them you're going to find Saliba and Gabriel.
Yeah, definitely. I think so. I think this game is going to play right into our hands. If we can control Eze, I think we're going to control Palace, is basically how I feel about it.
Paz, I think the one area that causes me a little bit of concern is set pieces. And it has done for the last kind of year almost, really. Last season, we fell right off defending set pieces. Palace are a big side. We've still got a lot of new pieces in that team, right? So you're going to have Rice and Havertz obviously are going to be are in there. They're still new, still bedding in. We've moved a few players, shifted around positions. We do that thing where we have the 3-man markers and everyone else zonal. I just wonder if we've had enough time to really bed that in yet, and set pieces are the one area where I'm a bit concerned.
Yes, you're rightfully to be concerned about that. And then, when you play a Roy Hodgson team, there is going to be a lot of emphasis on set pieces, corners, free kicks. It is one that, I hope they have worked on. We have definitely got the aerial side covered in terms of height, with Rice in there now. Havertz can come back as well. So I'm hoping that they've had enough practice on that. But you are right to be slightly concerned of it, because we have struggled recently. But he's had, I think, this week away, more than a week away, plus that Luton game in between. I hope these are the things that they've been really focusing on, because we know what we're going to be up against with Palace. There is going to be a lot of aerial threat coming in, especially from the set pieces.
And I'm hoping, Juz, that we don't keep going long too much, because I just don't think that works for us. Like, I understand that Havertz is pretty good in the air. But I don't think it particularly works for us, and I don't think this is a game where we should be doing that. We're better off getting the ball on the deck and trying to slide people in than we are flinging the ball up in the air for Havertz to flick on.
Yeah, Gav, I agree with that. I think when you have guys like Anderson who are really good in the air and good at playing it back, quick to start a play, and then your aerial game relies on your left 8 to get up in front super early when he probably is stepping out of position. I agree with you, Gav. I think there's going to be a lot of quick passing and slow build to get up to the top. I don't think it's going to be a fast game here.
But that's an interesting point, Paz. I mean, we both think Havertz is going to start up top. But even at the weekend, even though Havertz wasn't starting up top, from every goal kick, he was up top. He was actually going up top, and Nketiah was dropping deep. So that is a ploy.
Yeah, it is. It is. I do agree with you. I would like less of it. But in some respects, I do appreciate going long a bit sometimes, because there has to be a bit of variation in our play. We've got to sometimes look into ways because we've had one of the best seasons we've had for a long time last season. But there is the downside to that is that people now know how we play. They're very aware of our style. They're very aware of what we do. So having that little bit of variation in there can help. But I do agree in the sense that to not overdo that long ball. But it is definitely a ploy. I think Havertz, that's why for some reason I think he's going to start the 9 on that one. Because they want to take advantage of. Of course, that doesn't mean Nketiah gets onto it if he's taken his place. But I think that looks to be and also threats and corners and set pieces ourselves when we take them. So, yeah.
And the other thing, Judge, that seems to be a ploy, and it has been for a while, is just the amount of shots we take from distance. Like, we are hitting a lot of shots from outside and around the edge of the box. I think this season, 19 of 24 shots or something in the first game in the Charity Shield were from outside the box. That's something you see continuing?
Yeah, I think so. I think we have a team of players in the midfield and even the defense that can, run into midfield and crack a shot. So yeah, I do kind of think that continues. When you think about like Rice, Odegaard, Havertz, Timber, which obviously is, But yeah, I think we see that continuing. Zinchenko can do it as well. So yeah. I think that's going to be a tactic to try to get the other team to, step out. And I think we see it quite a bit.
Yeah, Paz, the Palace are particularly vulnerable down Martinelli's side, right? Like Tyreek Mitchell's a really good one-on-one defender. And he actually played really well against Saka twice last year. I think the other side is where they're really, really vulnerable. So I would expect a lot more switching of play a lot quicker than we had before. I can see us building up down that right-hand side and then looking for the quick switch out to the left-hand side.
Yeah, who is there? Because I like Mitchell. I think he's a really good defender. Who's on the other side?
They got that 35-year-old Joel Ward playing right back, I think.
Oh, right. Okay. Yeah, absolutely. That's where you're going to exploit. And I think that's where Martinelli's going to be, that's and Martinelli, as we saw in the first game, was causing all types of problems. So you're going to be definitely switching it out to him to attack that. And if Martinelli was to go off, or Trossard's another one that can give them a lot of hassle on that. So yeah, I agree with you. I think it's going to be a lot. I hope anyway we have a much quicker tempo and we up that tempo than what we did in the first match. And we're going to have to, because it's an away game. Selhurst is never easy. It's quite a condensed environment as well, so you really hear the crowd and the fans. It's an old school stadium, so I think us trying to attack them as quickly as possible and switch the flanks is going to be crucial to that game. But absolutely, he's going to be the one to exploit for sure.
And the last bit on this game, Jazz, I think what I would really like to see, and what I don't think we're going to see, because I'm starting to basically lose faith we're ever going to see it, is some better substitutions from Arteta. Earlier, more often, get Trossard on the pitch a little bit earlier, shake it up, change, not necessarily the formation, but change the way the players are. I mean, are you like me? Are you just getting to the point, Jazz, where you're accepting that we're going to make one sub on 75 minutes and maybe two on 87 minutes, and that's it?
Yeah, Gav. I am a bit like you, mate. I've kind of lost hope on our better substitutions, which is a shame because I do think we've got a deeper squad with players that could impact in different ways from the starters, but I just don't see it. What about you, Paz? What do you think?
I would like to. There's a part of me that's optimistic that he's gonna be a little bit more proactive, but again, not just the subs, but what I also want us to see is putting these games to bed as well, because that's another area where we're having extreme difficulty in, where we take a lead, we go into a 2-0 lead, and then especially that 2-0 lead, and we just get really complacent. And then I think that's where Arteta doesn't react quick enough in circumstances like that, where, as you rightly mentioned, he waits to the 70th minute to make a sub. But it looks like he's not reacted to the situation. He's just going along with what his plan was before the game started. And I don't think that's the way you've got to operate. But I hope there's a change. But there is a pessimistic Arsenal fan in me, which probably goes along with what Justin's saying.
Yeah,
well, you can preempt it too, right? Like that. It wasn't difficult. We have been watching this team for long enough to know that if we go 2 or 3 up, we are going to stop. Right? We all know it. If we are 2 or 3 up at half time, you can guarantee that the end score is going to be 2-1 or 3-1. You can guarantee it. We will just stop. And the way to preempt that, you have 5 subs now. You can change almost half of your outfield players, right? And I'm not saying use all 5 at half time, but you can quite comfortably use 2 or 3 at half time. Bring Trossard on. Bring Nelson on. Bring someone that's hungry. Bring Smith Rowe on. Bring someone on that's got something to prove, rather than players who are in every week. I don't want to, sit here and have a referendum on this, but it just seems so obvious.
It really does, Gav. And I don't even know where to go from here. I mean, I know, people listen for our opinions and whatnot, but this one is one that, I mean, I think we're right where all the listeners are. I am shocked. Like, someone like Smith Rowe, who saved our season, hasn't been getting more minutes. I'm shocked that someone like Trossard, who has been one of our best players, has consistently been a sub. The whole thing is really odd to me. And I just, it's just an area that I hope that Mikel can improve on, because I think it's one of his weaker areas at this point, substitutions.
Yeah, I think that's absolutely true, Paz.
It also brings to what you mentioned, Gab, in that, not only we've got 5 subs, we've also got 5 subs of an improved squad. So, we're looking at players. We've got a stronger squad, a stronger set of players. I think there's a misconception. There's a feeling that if you make those subs at halftime and you're winning, a lot of the thinking is, oh, look at him, he's being complacent now. He's taking the team taking advantage of the fact that they're leading, and But I think you can also look at it from what you're mentioning, in that someone like Smith Rowe has a lot to prove, obviously, to Arteta. So does Nelson. So does, in some respects, Trossard. So I don't think they're going to go in and drop the ball. They're going to go in, if anything, to try and capitalize on them getting more time. So, yeah, I'm with you. I feel that is an area I just hope he does look at a little bit more. Because Smith Rowe didn't come on, did he, against Forest?
No, I mean he only made 3 subs of 5. There was the one for the Timber injury, then he brought Trossard on 74 minutes and Gabriel on 87 minutes. In a game like that, to me, it's nonsensical. I know there was a club, I don't know if it was a Championship club or a League One club, that actually hired a substitution manager, right? So they had someone who just took care of the substitutions. So the manager did the game plan, the manager took care of all that, but there was someone on the bench who was advising this is when the subs go in.
Makes sense.
We may be reaching a point where you need to do that, because like you said, it seems to be, it's not just that he's reacting slowly, it's that everything is reactive and not proactive. And I think that's where, for a side like us that do take the lead a lot, we're in front in most games, there's got to be a way to share these minutes around and get people on the pitch who have got something to prove. Because let's face it, our starting 11 really don't have much to prove to anybody. They've other than the final hurdle of actually winning the title, they know they're on the team sheet again next week. So let's get some players on there that are desperate to prove themselves, that really have to go for it. I think that's just, to me, that's how it makes most sense. And I think that's how most people see it. And I'm hoping that we can somehow, Mikel has some sort of epiphany that brings him around to that. Because right now, I mean, I've always said to you, I'm not really a big believer in squad rotation. I think fans like it a lot more than managers do, but we're reaching almost ridiculous levels with it right now. So hopefully that changes. Nuno Tavares, I don't know if you guys have heard of this one, because it started about an hour ago, I guess the rumours started, but we all know that he turned down Nottingham Forest. When yesterday people were saying 30 million, I was flabbergasted. Yeah. It turns out it was 13 million, and it appears a journalist has misheard something and said 30, and everyone ran with it. Anyway, so he turned him down. But apparently now Villa want him, and they want him on loan. It seems there's no interest in them from a permanent transfer. I mean, what do we do with this, Paz? We need to get rid of players, but kicking the can down the road and bringing no money in doesn't seem very sensible.
Yeah, it's a real. This is part of Edu's summer, is also the sales. As much as we could be happy about the people he's brought in, and part of it is getting rid of these players. And I don't think we help ourselves. I've said this before, because there's a lot of people who say, yeah, but how can Tierney be only getting this and Tavares getting this? These guys aren't even playing. They've not even coming off the bench. Pepe's training by himself. What are you expecting a fee for a guy who's training by himself? He's not even involved with. So if you're ostracizing players to a point where they don't even get minutes in your team, and then you're expecting some fee more than what the going rate will be, it's crazy. So Balogun's probably the only one I can think of, but even he doesn't even get a sub appearance. But he's probably the one we're going to get the most for. I don't think it's going to be anything that we're hoping for. But the loan thing is just the most demoralizing out of all of it, because all you are is kicking the can down the road, because we're going to be back to square one next year with them with a year less on their contract. It just prolongs the agony, I think. And I really hope, and I feel this is what their recruitment policy has been over the last few years, is really get returns on players that they look to sell on, and maybe think about how they're also placing them in the squad. Because if you ostracize them to a point where you hardly ever see them and expect some big fee, it's not going to happen. It's just not going to happen.
And this one makes even less sense, Juz, because Villa don't even want him as first choice. Villa want him as basically a backup. So I don't see how this would do anything to improve his value whatsoever. You're relying on an injury for him to even get a game.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think, in apologies, by the way, I'm in an unfamiliar location where there's extra noise. So apologies if anybody hears anything. But yeah, I think there's definitely an area, a role a team that we could do better in with him. I'm not sure if this is it. And, like you said, Gav, we're kicking the can down the road, right? I mean, bottom line.
Yeah, absolutely. And at this point, Paz, you said that Balogun will get a fee for, and I agree with that. I think we've still got 8, 9 that we need to get out. I am not confident on any of them other than Balogun going for a fee. I can see us getting a week past the end of the window and cancelling the contracts of Cedric and Pepe. I'm not confident of any of the others going. I'm not confident of getting any sort of fee for Tavares. I'm not confident of getting any sort of fee for Tierney or Holding or Sambi. I don't see it at this point. It just doesn't look like anything's going to happen.
So I think Tierney possibly because, there's always a Moyes out there, isn't there? Or Sheffield United manager or someone like that who might be a little bit that he could adopt to that playing style. He is Scottish international. He has got some qualities that he can bring, but most of them, I'm on the same page. I just don't see how we're going to get fees for them. And the less and less they play, or the less and less that they make appearances, the less we're going to get, if anything. If you push a player out like Pepe to where he's in at the moment, to expect anything is just ludicrous. It's not happening. I don't think any one of those players that we're looking to sell has. We only played one game, but even in pre-season, we didn't really see them around. We haven't seen them take part. So it's going to be a real struggle. And then the optimism of us getting more players in becomes less as well, because we have to get rid of these guys to even bring in new players. So it's going to be going down to the wire, I think. As Justin had mentioned quite a while back, a lot of these are going to be just your third, fourth option choices for clubs. And if we're lucky, a few of them go. But the rest is either staying or we pay them off or they go on loan again.
Well, we've got 12 days until the market closes because it's September 1st this year. Is his deadline day. So we'll see what happens in the next 10 days. But I am really not hopeful now. At the start of the summer, if you'd have told me we were going to be here with player sales, I don't think I would have believed you. I really don't. I can't believe that we haven't been able to get rid of a lot of these players. All right, well, let's move on from that. Let's just talk about some of the stuff that's gone on this weekend. Obviously, We're recording Sunday, so we've been able to take in a whole weekend of football. And
have a laugh, Gav. Let's have a laugh.
What a weekend it was. Eric Sevenhaug has the man's a fraud, right?
Yeah, listen. That Justin knows this with our Dutch roots. There was I was upset that he went to Man United because I had a high regard for him at Ajax. I know Justin.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah. We had a high regard for him. But, Ajax played some lovely football, got in some good youth, but he seems to be the absolute antithesis at Man United. Maybe it's just Man United's fantastic aura that they bring to anyone that enters that club. But he's regressive. The football is regressive. It's awful to watch. The signings have been very one-dimensional, either ex-Ajax players that he's worked with, or mainly that, or really like past the hill kebab restaurant owners like Casemiro. So you've really got a very and then paying extortionate amount of money. I mean, it's like he's an Ajax spy, because they must be loving the fact that he's given them so much money for players like Martinez and Anthony, we chastised Pepe, and Anthony is still playing for that team. It's incredible. It's hilarious to watch, and all the optimism we got. We saw it, pre-season. Best keeper in the world, Martinez, best defender in the world. It's all come to the forefront because that Wolves was an anomaly. I can't even say it properly, but you know what Anomaly. That's it. Go. It wasn't. It was. That's it. It was what we were expecting, and we saw that against Spurs. Didn't take much for Spurs to beat them, really.
And just they've not adapted their playing style or moved forward at all, have they? I mean, they're literally doing exactly the same thing as they were last year. they are literally dropping back, hoping you empty your backfield coming out, and then they hit a long ball over the top. Like this has not moved on at all for them, and I'm here for it, but it's not moved on.
I mean, yeah, Gav, essentially, I don't have a lot to say about them because they're still doing the same thing and it's still not working. So, yes, they're still basically doing exactly what you said. And yeah, mate, I don't fancy them at all. And as a former Ten Hag fan, like someone that would have liked to have taken over for Arteta. I don't really rate him, but I think it's more because of the. Are we going to talk about Greenwood or
nope?
Okay,
no, I don't want anything to do with Mason Greenwood.
Yeah, I don't either.
That's their problem. That's their problem. Not ours.
It's also his comments as well, Justin.
No. I agree.
Banana one, when he's saying that was not a penalty. Come on, man. Just be honest. It was so obviously a fucking penalty. Everyone could see that was a penalty. Just say, okay, we got away with that one. You don't have to justify and come up with some bullshit reason that was not a penalty. It's stuff like that. It's kind of very.
No. I agree 100%. He's.
And Mason Mount, I have no idea what that's about. I have no idea. And I said that from day one. Don't get it. And I think this whole year is going to be the same.
And another team that are a mess and not looking any better is Chelsea. And I saw this one coming.
For $1 billion?
I saw this one coming a mile off. I've said it before. This is why we let teams like Brighton and Southampton take these risks on these players, and then we cherry pick the best ones. Because if you don't, this is what happens. Chelsea have signed 10, 12, 15 players over the last 18 months that are the sort of players that would go to Brighton for 5 to 10 million. Half of them, 3/4 of them would be duds and they would just be shipped out abroad. 2 or 3 hit and they sell them on to Chelsea for 100 million quid. And that's it. Well, what Chelsea have done now is paid over the odds for all these players, and it's going to be a disaster there, and I am looking forward to every minute of it, Paz.
Absolutely. I mean, what we see with Chelsea is, where's the strategy? Remember when Gary Neville said, what was our strategy? Where's their one? I don't know what it is. I think what they're trying to do, right, is they're trying to do what people have said for years. Why do big clubs wait until someone is good for Southampton or good for Brighton before they buy them? Well, I think you're about to find out why. Because for Brighton and Southampton, these players get to play, and they can either be good and we buy them, or they can be terrible and they move on and nobody notices. It's not like that when you're at a club that expects to win things. It's not. And it seems to me as well that they are very proactive in looking at what other teams are interested in, which players they're interested in, which players they need. And then they'll just think, well, we don't necessarily need them, but at least it takes out a competitive team's interest in a player that they really need. I mean, how long is that strategy going to last? Because they've been missing a number 9 for years now. So all this time they're filling up their midfielders. And I know this is not going to be representative of the whole season, but their 2 most expensive midfielders, the 2 most expensive midfielders of all time, one missed a penalty and one conceded one. So they're a hot mess, absolute hot mess.
Yeah, and just to round up any other top 4 pretenders, if you like, Jazz, I thought Liverpool looked decent going forward and terrible at the back, as we expected. I didn't think much of Tottenham. They could have been 3 down to an awful Manchester United team at half-time. I think they're going to win some games and they're going to get some thumpings. And Newcastle look kind of like Newcastle, right? They're a little bit shy of ideas against top teams. They're going to beat a lot of the smaller teams. I mean, there's not a whole lot that's changed this year.
Yeah, I feel exactly how you feel about... Sorry, my chair is pretty squeaky. I'm trying to... I feel exactly how you feel about Newcastle. I think Liverpool is the more interesting one. I think they have lacked a true holding midfielder, so they've been putting McAllister there.
who's now red carded.
Yep, exactly. Yep. Thank you.
And I mean, I guess a lot just depends on whether that Endo is any good or not, right? Because if he's not, they could be in a bit of trouble.
Yeah, definitely. I think so. Go ahead, pause.
No, you go, Just. That was for you, mate.
Oh, okay. I think McAllister being red carded is going to be massive for them because they're already so slim in midfield. I'm curious to see how this Japanese player Endo does, but I think that they are very shallow in midfield, and I think it's gonna hurt them overall.
Yeah, I think
I like the number 8 though. I like their number 8. I think he's going to be a good player.
Szoboszlai? You're talking about Szoboszlai?
I can't say his name, so I just call him number 8.
So it's Bolazi.
Szoboszlai. I don't know how he's had, but yeah, he looks a decent player. They're going to be.
Bolazi.
It's interesting that Darwin can't get a game at all. There,
no, he can't.
It is. Yeah, it's really interesting.
Yeah, I mean, I think if I was them, I'd throw him out there because it can't get much worse. But all right, guys. Well, let's end it there for tonight. And we'll be back after the Palace game, either Monday night or Tuesday, and we'll see you all then. So goodbye, guys.
Good evening. Have a good one.
See you
Night.
later.